Good afternoon. Welcome to EduSet Network. Friend, today we are going to discuss democracy and social movement. And this topic needs a special attention because in the last few years we have witnessed a number of movements the world over, and that's why we need to understand the theoretical aspect, theoretical perspective, and we also will have a discussion on the social movement in Indian perspective. So we have organized two lectures. In the first lecture today, we'll going to try and to understand a theoretical perspective of democracy in a social movement, and tomorrow we'll try to understand in the Indian perspective. So on behalf today we welcome Dr. M.P. Singh, renowned scholar, senior academician. He has been in teaching for political science for about 40 years, and he has held several important positions, including the head of the Department of Political Science in Delhi University, and he has published a number of books, and the work on federalism has been widely appreciated, not only in India, the world over. He is a renowned scholar on this very topic, and the book on federalism has come earlier, and this in fact, this year also a book on federalism in South Asia, how the federalism is being practiced in the country like India, Pakistan, Nepal, and Sri Lanka having done. He has carried out a research, and on that basis he has own perspective from the theoretical perspective he has documented, so that is also being popularly being popular among the academicians and the students. So I think his knowledge and experience will help us to understand this topic and will give insight how to understand the social movement in India, and especially in the context of democracy. So on your behalf, I welcome Dr. M.P. Singh for EduSet lecture on this very topic. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Amrinder Kumar ji. The topic of discussion today is democracy and social movements, and in the two lectures that we are going to have on this topic, first of all, we would be exploring theoretical perspectives on social movements, particularly new social movements. And in the second lecture, we would be discussing new social movements in India. Now, first of all, we should define what we mean by social movements. And one more thing should be clarified right at the beginning, that we are talking about social movements in modern times, and particularly in the more contemporary period, and the more contemporary movements in political theory are generally called new social movements. Now, so first of all, we will try to understand what we mean by social movements. Now, social movements often challenge the authorities on behalf of the people to alter prevailing structure and culture. So, the objective of social movements is to bring about some transformation, some change, prevailing structure and prevailing culture of the time. Now, and the movements are launched on behalf of the people, and it's a mode of collective action in which large number of individuals, groups, and classes participate. So it's a mode of collective action involving people, and there is generally an ideology to a social movement, and generally social movements also create structures or organizations. So the ideology and organizations of social movements give direction and continuity to their cause, and the degree of spontaneity and organization may differ from movement to movement. Some movements are spontaneously created, and some movements are created in a sustained way, and spontaneous movements suddenly erupt and create a new atmosphere, and if they succeed, they disappear. But some movements are carried on a sustained basis, and instead of makeshift organizations, enduring organizations can also emerge. But social movements are by and large, they have a they have a cause that they want to carry out, and if the cause is successful, then the movements may take different forms. For example, a movement may turn into an organization, social organization, a movement may beget a political party, and so on and so forth. Now, modernity has produced at least two overarching institutions of foundational importance. When we talk about modern social movements, let us lay out the structural context in which social movements, modern social movements have appeared. Modernity has produced two major overarching structures, the nation state and political economy. Nation state has been theorized by modern theorists like Hegel and Marx and Weber. Political economy of capitalism and socialism is another dimension, a modern contemporary structure in the economy, which also involves, which is also relevant in the context of social movements. Now, political economy of capitalism has been theorized or analyzed by theorists like Marx and Weber and others. So, we are talking about the relevance of social movements within the context of the modern state or within the context of modern economy. The economy could be a capitalist economy or a socialist economy or a neoliberal economy, So, these are the contexts in which we are trying to discuss social movements. Now, right at the beginning, we pointed out that there are movements which are called old social movements, and there are movements which are called new social movements. Now, the old social movements emerged primarily in two contexts. When representative democracy was emerging, when the idea of democracy or institutions of democracy, when representative democracy or responsible government, a government accountable to the parliament, these institutions, when they were emerging, there was this context that created some earliest movements, and these movements were for democratizing the structure of the state, democratizing government, not only in terms of accountability to the people, but also accountability to legislature. So, this is one context in which social movements appeared earlier. The earliest social movements in modern times related to the cause of democratization of the state. Then another context in which earliest social movements appeared was the context of economic equality. Some movements appeared on the scene advocating the cause of social equality or relating to issues of economic production and distribution, economic production, distribution and exchange of goods, or social equality broadly. So, these are the two contexts in which the earliest movements in modern times appeared, and these movements are generally considered the earliest or the older social movements. In the context of India, the old social movements emerged espousing the cause of socio-religious reforms, political independence, economic distribution or redistribution. But about India we are going to talk later. Mainly today we would be focusing on the theoretical framework of understanding social movements, old but mainly new in our lecture today. Now, new social movements theories. Now we are shifting our attention to the new social movements, because these are the movements that are mostly being talked about today. Now, new social movements theories are focused on relationship between contemporary social movements and economic structures and role of culture in such movements. Now, these contexts have both macro as well as micro elements to them. When we talk about social movements, there is a macro dimension and there is a micro dimension. Macro dimension of social movements focuses on larger structures and cultures, where organizations in collectivity, where people or groups in collectivity, communities in collectivity, they are focused on, or culture of the people is being talked about. And the micro dimension of social movements refers to identity and personal behavior. So we are talking about culture and structure on the one hand, the macro aspect, and the micro aspect of social movements refers to individual identities, personal behavior of people in social movements. Now, the role of working classes was the main concern of the old social movement theories. Old social movements theories mainly focused on the emergence of democracy or emergence of socialist movements, trade union movements. These were the movements that related to the activities of the subaltern classes or working classes. Now, in the earlier phase of industrial society, after the industrial revolution, commercial revolution and industrial revolution, institutions of capitalism were emerging, and it was in this context that inequalities of political power or inequalities of wealth became the major concern of social movements. So in the older social movements, either democratic groups demanding for franchise rights or voting rights, or working classes demanding better wages or better distributive justice in the society or in the economy. So the role of groups or movements agitating for political participation, democratization of the state, or for equality of wealth, equality of income, equality of wages, or better working conditions, these were the focus of the older social movements. Now, what about the new social movements? Now, new social movement theories have mainly focused on the newer concerns that the social movements raise or mobilize. Now, new social movement theories have emerged responding to two limitations of classical Marxism. Classical Marxist theories theorized about the role of political parties, mainly role of the trade unions, and so on and so forth. So the new social movements, when they emerged, they had a different orientation. They had different organizational patterns, and therefore, when classical Marxism, which had analyzed the earlier social movements, older social movements, that worked well in that context. But when newer social movements with newer orientations, newer kinds of identity and cultural issues emerged, classical Marxism was found wanting in analyzing and understanding the new social movements. Now, two kinds of reductionism is inherent in classical Marxism. Marxism is characterized by two kinds of reductionism. The first may be called economic reductionism and the second class reductionism. Economic reductionism reduced the role of political and cultural factors. Economic reductionism focused primarily on economic issues and considered the material issues or economic issues as the main driving force of history. Class reductionism mainly focused on two fundamental classes of the capitalist society, the industrial society, the workers and the capitalists. So, classical Marxism was a good theoretical framework for analyzing the earliest social movements that we talked about, earliest social movements that we discussed earlier. Now, because economic reductionism did not give much attention to non-economic factors, political factors, cultural factors were suppressed in classical Marxist tendency of reducing all issues to economic issues. Cultural issues, ethnic issues, or political issues were all reduced to economic issues. Now, this was not good enough for understanding new social movements, because new social movements did not raise fundamental economic issues. They raised cultural issues, they raised political issues, and economic reductionism was found wanting in explaining these new social movements. Class reductionism was primarily focused on classes and ethnic groups, religious groups, cultural groups, caste and communities, tribes. These categories were sort of glossed over, and the main focus was class or economically defined class relations or class structures defined in terms of economic criteria, not based on other cultural factors like ethnicity, linguistic identity, religious identity, caste identities or tribal identities and so on. So, the new social movements tried to overcome these limitations of Marxism in order to make new social movement theories more applicable to the kind of ground realities that we found in the new social movements. Now, a corollary of the foregoing point that we discussed just now, let us discuss a few other related points. Now, capitalism was the focus of the old social movements, while new social movement theories stress on the state as the site for the capture of historicity. Now, capitalism, the political economy or the institution of capitalism was the main focus of old social movement theories. Now, the new social movements theories shifted their analytical focus to non-capitalist structures, non-capitalist or political structures or cultural structures, and the state new social movement theorists emphasized the state rather than capitalism as the main site for the struggle for capturing the historicity. Now, what do we mean by capturing the historicity? What do we mean by the capture of historicity? Now, historicity is here defined by new social movement theorists as the capacity of the state, capacity of the political institutions or institutions of governance to develop new ideologies and new technologies to enable us to intervene in the historical process. Now, in old social movements generally focused on capitalism and classes, working classes and capitalist classes, but the new social movements shifted the attention to the centrality of the state, the political institution. So, a state rather than political economy became the focus of attention in new social movement theories. Now, a related point is that in addition to the political institution of the state, the institutions of culture also became the concern of the new social movement theories. Now, new social movements theories do not only end with bringing the state back in. You remember the Marxist theories had reduced the importance of the state as the managing committee of the bourgeoisie. The dominant capitalist class controlled the state, and therefore, what was more important was the institutions of political economy rather than the state. Now, but the new social movement theorists found that in addition to the institution of capitalism, the autonomous state, a state is not always an instrument in the hands of the capitalist class. The state is also an autonomous political force, an independent political force. There may be some influence of all classes, including institutions of capitalism or capitalist classes, but the state is also an autonomous institution, neutral institution, rising above the class conflicts or group conflicts in a society. So, the new social movements rescued the state from being relegated to the background, and they brought it back in the political analysis or social science analysis. Now, so so the state and political states and culture became the concern of the new social movements theories. Now, another related point is that in old social movements, there is a bias towards a structural determinacy. What do we mean by a structural determinacy? It is the political structures that determine the outcome. It is the objective structures that determine the outcome, and the role of the individuals, role of communities and groups is minimized. New social movements said that the structures may be important, but in addition to a structural determinacy, autonomy of individuals, autonomy of groups, autonomy of communities also matters. And therefore, the new social movement theories emphasized the autonomy of individuals and groups, and the exclusive focus of the old theories on structural determinacy was moderated in order to bring in the factor of autonomy of individuals and groups in the political equation, in the social and economic equation. The new social movement theories also give primacy to post-materialist values. We have already pointed out that the concern of old social movement theories was with economic distribution, economic distribution or redistribution, issues of wages and salaries. So material factors, material values were emphasized by old social movement theories. New social movement theories also emphasized, in fact, they give primacy to post-materialist values. What are post-materialist values? Now, in addition to the issues of economic distribution, production and economic distribution, in addition to these issues, what also matters in life today is the quality of life, aesthetics, freedom, gender equality, sexuality, ecology, protection of weaker sections, in child rights, women's rights, artistic freedom, quality of life, ecological protection, environmental degradation must be arrested, ecology and environment must be made sustainable so that the future generations are not completely deprived of the resources that we are consuming today. So, these are some important points of new emphasis in the theories of the new social movements that we must bring out for sharper focus. Now, in the realm of technology and social totality, again, the old social movement theories and the new social movement theories vary, they have differences. For example, in the realm of technology and social totality, the new social movements are more open to the use of and need to theorize new constructs that go beyond models of industrial modernity. Old social movements were obsessed with the kind of social totality that goes by the name of industrial society or goes by the name of capitalist society. So, in the new social movements, we have new kinds of issues relating to technology and social totality. What are the new kinds of issues in new technology and in new social totality? Instead of talking about industrial society, social theories today are talking about post-industrial society. Industrial society that emerged in the 19th and 20th centuries, industrial society that emerged in the 19th century and first half of the 20th century was one kind of social totality, one kind of total social system, construction of social system, and the new kind of social totality that has emerged is often called post-industrial society. Post-industrial society is different from industrial society in the sense that in the industrial society, the two fundamental classes of capitalists and workers are now replaced by emergence of new classes, new groups, new classes, new kinds of technologies are emerging. For instance, in addition to agricultural production or agricultural sector or industrial sector, today we have a very large sector which is called service sector. Now, service sector in fact has become the larger sector than the agricultural sector and the industrial sector. Earlier, agriculture and industry were the sites or were the structures or sectors in which the bulk of the population was working. Today, the service sector has in fact become, in India included, not only in post-industrial societies like Japan, US, Western Europe, Canada, and other Commonwealth countries like Canada, Australia, and so on. In addition to the industrial sector and the agricultural sector, the service sector has become the larger sector, and that has come to pass even in India. Even in India, our service sector is larger than the industrial and the agricultural sector. New kinds of technologies have come to characterize the modern contemporary society. Like for instance, today new kinds of technology like information technology, communication technology, only 15 years back in India, 20 years back in India, we were not using the information technology and communication technology, the world wide net, the internet, the social media, the electronic media. They have expanded so much that the technological scene, which was mainly industrial technology or agricultural technology, has got transformed into new loci or new foci of new kinds of technology. So these are the kinds of constructions, conceptual and theoretical constructions at the level of social totality we want to draw the attention to. So in the new age, we have to live in a world that is very different from the worlds in which we were born or in which our forebears lived. Now the concept and theories that go by various names such as post-industrial society, post-structural society, post-modern societies, these terms have become so frequent that social theories, political theories must come to terms with these new terms that are cropping up, that are becoming widely used today. Post-industrialism, post-structuralism, post-modernism. So what we are trying to say is that in place of modernity, some people are now talking about post-modernity. In place of largely industrial society, we are talking of a post-industrial society in which, in addition to industry being the major location of technology, information and communication technology have come to pervade our lives so significantly. Now, there have been many theorists of the new social movements. For example, there is in Immanuel Castells in Western Europe, and Laurent Touraine and Melucci, a number of theorists have appeared on the scene theorizing about the new social movements. Some of them have emphasized the new kinds of urbanization that has come to characterize the contemporary world. In place of the central city, in what in North America is called the downtown, in place of the older city, new cities, new suburban areas, new colonies beyond the central city have emerged, and these locations have engendered new styles of living, new values of life, new expectations from from the government and the society and from the cultures in which we live. So, there have been a number of theorists who have emphasized on different aspects of this post-industrial society. Some have drawn our attention to the new urban locations, new kinds of urbanization. Some have drawn attention to new kinds of technologies. Some have drawn attention to new ways of organizing things. Some have drawn attention to new networks of social relations. For example, new means of information, new means of networking instead of direct contact, networks of fluid contacts, networks of technologically or information technology operated networks like social media and things like that, internet, email and so on and so forth, that have linked the whole world so closely. The Canadian media philosopher Marshall McLuhan called about the emergence of the global village. What we earlier called the village as a secluded, isolated place, the whole world has become so closely interlinked that Marshall McLuhan talks about the emergence of the global village, as every individual was in contact with every other individual or group in the village. Today in the contemporary world, we may be living in any corner of the world, but we are in immediate contact with any part of the world. In matter of seconds, in matter of minutes, we can contact anyone across the globe. In fact, beyond this, in fact, we are traveling to other planets. So, these are the kinds of new aspects of life, new aspects of living, new aspects of culture that the new social movements try to draw our attention to. New theories about new social movements try to draw our attention to. There is a German social theoretician, Jürgen Habermas. Jürgen Habermas is a contemporary German critical theorist who lives in Frankfurt. Jürgen Habermas has offered a theory of new social movements that appears to me as the most comprehensive and most systematic theorization about new social movements, and therefore we would discuss Habermas's theory of new social movements at some length. Now, what is the theory of Habermas relating to new social movements? Now, Habermas postulates that politico-economic, well, let's put it this way. Habermas postulates two major components of the social and cultural world, political and economic world in which we live in. There are, first of all, the systems on the one hand, on the other hand, there are life worlds. One element is called systems and the other element is called the life worlds. Now, there are, first of all, politico-economic systems in the contemporary world which are governed by the generalized media of power and money. Power and money are the general media through which politico-economic systems work. Now, these politico-economic systems are operated as objective structures. their main defining characteristic is impersonal, objective structuration, structure formation, in which what matters more is the generalized media of money and power. They are the media through which systems operate. On the other hand, we also live in the contemporary world today, which may be called life worlds. Life worlds are the micro communities in which the human communities, the human element, let us put it this way, there are systemic structures and there are structures of culture, life worlds. Life worlds are communities and groups, face-to-face communities, where we live as individuals and members of groups, communities and societies. So, the systems are operated through, the systems are governed by the generalized media of power, political power and money. The life worlds, on the other hand, are regulated by normative consensus and communicative action. Normative consensus or communicative action are the defining characteristic of the life worlds. Life world is more living, more humane, more closer to our our ideas, attitudes, values. We feel more at home in the life worlds, but we have also to live in a world in which politico-economic structures also dominate our life. So, these two dimensions of contemporary world are delineated by Habermas, and the life worlds and the system are sort of stitched together. They live in a symbiotic, they are supposed to live in a symbiotic relationship. To give an example, we talk about the state and we also talk about the civil society. The civil society is an example of life world and the state is an example of the structure or the system. So, system of a state, system of capitalism on the one hand, and the community life, the civil society organizations, micro communities in which we live, families, our social groups, our community organizations. So, they are brought together, they are stitched together, so to say, they are linked together, so to say, and that is how a modern society operates, that is how a modern society works. Now, social movements, according to Habermas, emerge on the seams or stitching points where the life worlds and the systems are interlinked. It is on the points of linkages between the two that new social movements emerge. Now, what is the context in which the new social movements emerge? The context in which the new social movements emerge when there is some tension, conflict between the system on the one hand and the life world on the other. When systems and the life world collide, or if there is a contradiction between the two, if there is a conflict between the two, new social movements emerged on those points of sight and those points of time. Now, why new social movements are needed? Now, Habermas theorizes, Habermas postulates that there is a tendency on the part of the system to intrude or colonize, quote unquote, colonize the life world. the systems try to colonize the life worlds, control the life worlds, dominate the life worlds. And life worlds that operate on consensus, communication, talking, conversation, systems often operate with coercive power, power of money, power of political power, authority of the state, coercive agencies of the state. So, when the systems intrude into the life worlds, when systems colonize the life world, when systems dominate the life world to an extent, when the life worlds feel suffocated, feel oppressed or dominated to an extent which becomes culturally unsustainable or unacceptable in terms of human values. It is on those points in time and space where the new social movements emerge, challenging the authorities and pushing forward the demands and aspirations of the life worlds on the system. And there may be conflict between the systems and the life world. There may be contradictions, there may be interaction, there may be dialogues, and it is through these interactions and conflicts that the balance or harmony or equilibrium between the systems and the life worlds is restored. So, this is how Habermas theorizes the new social movements. Now, new social movements, if we keep in mind, the 3 points that we try to elaborate right now. If we keep in mind these 3 points that we just discussed, there are a few conclusions that follow. Now, in Habermas's theorization, new social movements today in contemporary world, he is not talking about the old social movements which aimed at total transformation, which aimed at total transformation of the system. Old social movements, the old movements aiming at the destruction of feudal state, destruction of undemocratic state, old social movements that aimed at destruction of capitalism, replacement of capitalism by socialism. These movements were aimed at total transformation. They wanted to bring about a complete transformation, a systemic change, a systemic transformation. New social movements in the contemporary world, Habermas's postulation is, do not aim at total transformation. Well, we must keep in mind that Habermas's theorization is about the post-industrial societies. The kind of theorization that he is offering is based on the experience of post-industrial societies as in North America, Western Europe, and parts of the advanced capitalist and liberal democratic world. In that context, Habermas's underlying assumption is that to a large extent democratization has taken place, to a large extent social democracy has come about, social equality, a reasonable degree of social equality, a tolerable level of equality in society has come about, and therefore new social movements in his theorization do not aim at total transformation, destruction of one system and its replacement by another system. It is in this context that Habermas theorizes that new social movements are not aimed at total transformation, but only reformist changes. When the reform is restored, when the equilibrium is restored, social movements may disappear. New social movements may disappear. Now, as I said earlier, Jürgen Habermas's theorization of the new social movements appears to me as the most systematic and most comprehensive, and that's why we have devoted more time discussing his theorization rather than many other new social movement theorists that we just mentioned sometimes ago. Now, I suppose more or less I have discussed the theoretical part, and the Indian part of the lecture we decided to discuss tomorrow. So, do we have time for questions?
You talked about this. This theory applies only in the, we can say, the traditional society system or societal structure where it exists. But when we talk about now, we are in fact moving in 21st century through the in network society. So how such theory could be applied in a network theory and could explain the phenomena which is happening, especially in case of India or the other in the Egypt revolution we saw. So that is called a spring,
Arab Spring.
Arab Spring.
Yeah.
So we are seeing that the new technology that is transforming the we can say making opinion more dominantly than the regular media. So how will you explain apply this theory on this system?
Now new social movement theories are mainly applicable to my understanding, they mainly apply to advanced capitalist societies or advanced liberal democratic societies, mainly say North America, Western Europe, the old Commonwealth, particularly the white Commonwealth, let's say Canada, Australia, New Zealand. The only other country, only non-Western country which has become part of that kind of development may be Japan. Even India is not part of the post-industrial society.
Okay. So
the Arab world is also not part of that. But all the world, the rest of the world, not only post-industrial societies that we talked about, the rest of the world is also not left unaffected, not left untouched by the new technology, the new networks of, socialization, new networks of communication and information technology. And in fact, the countries like India or countries like the Arab world, they live in a mixed kind of situation, mixed context. And that's where, I would be arguing that old social movements are not all that irrelevant in these societies. New social movements have appeared in the kind of societies you mentioned, but at the same time, the kind of theorization that we discussed in the context of Jürgen Habermas would not be wholesale applicable to our kind of situation.
So in a way, you are saying that believe that this pattern of society, either it is capitalist society or the traditional form what we have in India, that is to continue for some time.
We live
not going to be replaced.
No. In fact, in the Indian Express today, there is an article, a lead article by Ashutosh Varshney, a political scientist, Indian political scientist who teaches in America. The Rudolphs who have got the Padma Bhushan award on the Republic Day this year. The article, Varshney has written an article on Lloyd and Suzanne Rudolph, who are experts of Indian politics and Indian political economy, who have been awarded Padma Bhushan by the President of India. Now, Lloyd and Suzanne Rudolph are among the first Western theorists who recognized that modernity is not going to completely replace the traditional identities or structures like caste system, community system in India. The caste will have a new avatar, new functions or new forms would be taken by caste in the democratic context. Caste was a structure that was created in pre-democratic context. But in the democratic context, caste would not disappear as many modernization theorists earlier thought. They would continue to continue to exist, but not exactly in the old form. They would take new forms.
Okay, it means a continuity and change element.
Continuity and change would always be part of our experience.
Okay.
There is no total transformation in that sense.
So, be any movement that is need to be stay.
Exactly.
So, as you said that will take another form. We will have a different form of movement, different way of looking at it. So, suppose if we see a theoretical perspective which suits to explain an Indian theoretical perspective, what will explain the Indian social movement or the movement which occur in another part of the world?
I think we need a kind of theorization that is double-faced, so to say. Janus is a Roman god, after whom the month January is named. January month, the month of January in Gregorian calendar is named after a Roman god, Janus or Janus, who is double-faced. He looked ahead and he looked back. So December, the last month of the year passed, and January, the new month of the new year, look in both directions. So we need that kind of theory, which is sensitive to the changing situation and sensitive to the continuities in the older structures and cultures that we are familiar with.
Okay. When we have the Indian experience, we find that even before democracy, the social movement in plenty in India, and that has helped in bringing out the shortcoming of the governance, or shortcoming of the way of the functioning of the ruling class. So, when we look at the social movement in India, what the strength, what the good form you find in the social movement, distinguishing feature of the social movement in India?
I think Indian society or Indian conditions can be a laboratory for the world, because India is a kind of society which lives in many centuries at the same time. Parts of the Indian society live in older times, part of the Indian society live in modern times. There are parts of the country that are still in the pre-industrial age, parts of the Indian society that live in industrial age, parts live in metropolitan cities, which at least some sections of Indian society have exposure to the kind of modernity that the most modern parts of the world may have experienced.
Okay, so well friends, with this word we conclude the lecture, and thank all of you for watching the lecture. And on your behalf, I thank Dr. M.P. Singh for giving such an insightful lecture on this very topic. Thank you very much.